foremost, Ron DeSantis. Now, I don't want you conservatives out here getting divided, okay? I don't want you conservatives out here getting divided. And the reason I don't want you to get divided is because I don't want you to get distracted, right? Distraction is literally the playbook for liberals and the left-leaning people, okay? Distractions are the playbook for left-leaning people. Now, what does that mean? For a long time, what we've seen is that they keep you easily distracted with issues and problems and things that's not truly affecting what it is that you have and what you got going on in your life. Abortion. Who it is that's in a national election, right? Having you think that reparations is important when you could have already gotten rich as a result of it. Shout out to Whoopi Rock. I'm definitely going to be reading Super Chat shortly. It's so many different things that keep you distracted, and you don't have to require anything from your elected officials. As a matter of fact, I would even do you one better and say that the local elections much more important than the national elections. However, we see a bigger turnout for the national elections than we see at your local precincts or your local voting polls, right? But Ron DeSantis is running for president, and where it's being announced that is on Twitter. Now, we've seen this playbook happen with Tucker Carlson. A lot of conservatives are starting to go over to Twitter. People are absolutely positively aligning themselves with Elon Musk. I don't know if it's because Elon Musk is putting together a super PAC in order to make sure that these people get elected or whatever like that. But he is expected either today or tomorrow or very soon in the future. Is being reported that Ron DeSantis, which I think that he's absolutely excellent, and I love the fact that he even took on Disney. Ron DeSantis is expected to run for president of the United States, and he's supposed to be announcing it specifically on Twitter. So I'm curious as to what you guys think. Let's go ahead and get into the show. Let's deep dive into it. Make sure you hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications. If you have not already, make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Let's get it popping, ladies and gentlemen.
I am here today to announce my candidacy for President of the United States.
Today, I proudly announce my candidacy for President of the United States of America.
I'm running for President of the United States. There's no turning back.
I stand before you today to announce my candidacy for President of the United States of America.
I am officially running for President of the United States.
Today I'm announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Presidential campaign announcements have a kind of rhythm. The candidate gets in front of the camera or a podium, as you just saw, outlines their credentials, and announces they're throwing their proverbial hat into the ring. But NBC News has learned Ron DeSantis will not take this route. No, instead, the Florida governor, who has been unofficially campaigning for months, will make his official announcement tomorrow on Twitter Spaces, the site's audio platform. Back with us tonight, Basil Schmeichel, Democratic strategist and former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party, and strategist Shermichael Singleton. He's worked on 3 Republican presidential campaigns and hosts Sirius XM's Urban View. And perhaps he's advising someone now. Shermichael will not tell us.
Just going to throw that out there.
Shermichael, yeah.
So let me ask y'all a question as we get into this, right? Because I think that y'all looking at this the wrong way. And I could tell y'all already emotional, and y'all should not be emotional. I see Greatness to Work, who is a person that I love having here, is emotional, saying, I want nothing to do with DeSantis, leave his ass in Florida. And why would you say that? Why? Because you know we about to ramp up from a political perspective over here on the Millionaire Morning Show. Why are you feeling some type of way about DeSantis? And then why would you allow yourself to be divided instead of just getting the insight and information based off of whatever policy that he presents and how it is that he communicates inside of the debates in order to make an informed decision as to whether or not you should be rocking with him as far as voting for him for president? Just curious. This is what they're looking for, is division instead of a civil discussion and a debate. People, do not be emotional about your decisions. Lean into logic. Think. Don't make emotional decisions. Just curious. Why are you guys so emotional when it comes to having conversations about who should be president from a conservative perspective? Just curious. Remove the emotion. Just because you like one candidate specifically doesn't mean that you have to hate a completely different candidate. Let's continue.
You know, well, in case you want to break news, we are here for it. I'm sure Stephanie Roll would approve. Look, Twitter is not real life. So what is behind this strategy? What's your take on it?
I don't
Twitter is real life, but let's continue.
understand it. When I first read this earlier today, I thought to myself, one of the first things you want with an announcement is the image, the backdrop of your candidate on every major newspaper in the country, every local newspaper, specifically in those primary states. If you're Ron DeSantis and you're behind Donald Trump by 30+%, you look at Real Clear Politics average, he's technically tied with President Biden, although Biden has the advantage. Trump is actually 1.4% ahead of President Biden, according to RCP average. So in my thought process, I'm thinking, what in the world are his strategists advising him? This, to me, doesn't make sense. I like Elon Musk, successful business entrepreneur, but when I think about how does this translate to moving voters in Iowa, then New Hampshire, then South Carolina, and the other states to follow, I don't see that connection, Simone.
Here's the problem with a lot of these old guards is that we're still relying on the things of yesteryear and the tools of yesteryear in order to validate what it is that we're saying are talking points, but it does not resonate. Because if Trump proved anything to you guys when he first became president, it's that he proved literally that you cannot trust polls, pundits, political strategists at all, because they don't truly have a pulse on the people. You know, the interesting thing about this whole thing is that I've never been actually contacted. I've never been contacted, not one time, in order to get some insight on where it is that I stand on my political views, who I was voting for, if I campaigned or stood tall in order to advocate for somebody to become president, who I've donated to. Where are they getting these numbers from, and why do we rely so heavily on pundits and talking points? I would advocate for DeSantis because I think that, in my personal experience with him, he's done an excellent job. Twitter is real life. Social media, especially for the overwhelming majority of Americans, is more real than real life. Okay, if social media isn't real life, then how come the majority of the time that you actually shoot your shot with a chick is in her DMs? If social media isn't a real thing, then how come literally some of the biggest tech companies in the world are based off of social media? Why is overwhelmingly the marketing campaigns and the marketing dollars spent not on traditional TV, not in person, not on flyers, but it's on social media? How come you are so easily influenced based off of what you see people post on Instagram? How come it was so important and people were whining so much about Elon Musk buying Twitter if it didn't mean anything? How come Elon Musk released the Twitter files that actually showed that liberals and left-leaning people suppressed what it was that was happening and it was censoring people that was on the right? If it doesn't mean anything, then how come all of these things, amongst a bunch of other things, is just as important? Y'all need to pay attention to what the hell is going on out here. Y'all need to pay attention to what the hell is going on out here. Twitter is real. Let me tell you something. Social media is more real than you think. When most people that I know that hire people, the first thing that they do is they go over to their social media and try to understand exactly who it is. How you market yourself is absolutely going to resonate with whoever it is that you present yourself to. The first thing that a woman does when you meet her and you walk away from her, if she has any information on you, is she looks you up on social media so that she can stay in contact with you. Most of the time when you talk to a person at the bar, whether it's you just networking, having a good time, or you talking to a woman, most of the time You don't exchange regular phone numbers, you exchange social media profiles. If it's not a real thing, then why is Tucker Carlson foregoing the possibility of making $20 million per year in order to go and launch his platform on Twitter? If it's not a real thing, why did Tesla get rid of their whole marketing and PR department in order to just have Elon Musk tweet all day in order to not only save money but to resonate more effectively with the people? If it's not a real thing, why was you so desperate in order to get a blue check? I'm telling you that social media is a huge thing. Barack Obama, to his credit, recognized the impact of social media before anybody politically before him, and he galvanized voters and people that donate, even on the smallest level, on a grassroots level, back in 2008 when he first got elected, to mobilize on social media, which is largely the way in which he got elected in the first place. He was able to resonate with a group of people that they didn't even know existed because they didn't think that it was a real thing. It's real. If it's not real, then how come, if you look at what it was that I deposited last month and this month, and it's all in the Patreon, link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat, how come I'm making over 6 figures a month just off of AdSense alone off of 2 channels? If it ain't real. Because the money is fucking real. I can tell you that much. The impact is real. I can tell you that much. We see people get canceled every single day from just doing false accusations. The woman that was pulling the bike out that actually showed that she had paid for the bike, yeah, she just raised over $120,000 for GoFundMe because people realized that she wasn't actually a Karen. She was a real person. Social media is a real thing. Don't think for 1 second that it's not.
You know, I think Basil, yes. Basil is with it. I mean, look, I think that Basil, the reality here is this seems very online. Shermichael talked about Elon Musk. He is reportedly joining Ron DeSantis for this announcement. But is the Elon Musk constituency really that meaningful in the states Shermichael mentioned? New Hampshire, Iowa, South Carolina. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the Elon Musk
Reading super chat shortly.
Constituency per se, but I think Ron DeSantis is doing this on Twitter because Donald Trump's not there. He's on another platform, he's got his own sort of social media.
These guys know nothing about social media. They should not even be a part of anybody's marketing campaign or campaign managers if you do not understand and have not successfully navigated through social media.
Platform, and he was on another cable network at a town hall. So for Ron DeSantis, this is an opportunity for him to have a platform to himself, at least for this short period of time, to be able to make this announcement. And there's still a lot of, I think, Republican Trumpists that are still on Twitter. He will get some kind of an audience, but I think to Shermichael's point, ultimately, the voters may not really remember this unless there's a big gaffe, and that could very well happen. Maybe something goes wrong with social media and it goes down, and then he's done. So maybe we'll remember it for ways that he didn't intend. But ultimately, as Shermichael said, you got to meet the voters where they are. And he probably should have done something very public, like a town hall or like a big rally to show a sign of strength, as we always say.
These people know nothing. They literally know nothing. They know nothing. Be careful who it is that you're listening to. Let me give you my experience of what it is of why I like DeSantis. Doesn't mean that I don't like Trump, and I'll have obviously to make a very hard decision prior to you actually seeing the national election and whoever it is that come out of the Republican Party, because I'm definitely not voting for Biden. And shout out to all of y'all that actually got Biden elected. Y'all wouldn't admit it, but we know who y'all are. The interesting thing about it is that I remember during the pandemic, and I know that a lot of us have really, really short memories, but let's be real. During the pandemic, I had the opportunity, especially considering that my daughter was younger, still in middle school specifically, if I remember correctly. But yeah, my daughter was younger, and so what we did was we moved to Florida. because everything in Michigan, and I absolutely positively despise Governor Whitmer here in Michigan. For some reason, people did not learn their lesson from when they had Jennifer Granholm as their governor the first time, but I absolutely despised Whitmer and how a lot of these liberal-leaning governors were managing what was happening during the pandemic. What we found out was that states had more power on an individual level than the federal government that essentially was overseeing and is just really plowing out money and dividing up money depending on the relationships and ensuring certain people got elected. I seen that it was a finesse. I seen these governors basically pivot and lock out any kind of opportunity for Trump to do certain things for the people because they weren't united on a whole front, but they separated themselves as an opportunity in order to get Biden elected. How incentivized were they to do that? How much the states received as a result of it? Who can fucking know, right? We don't know what these backroom deals were. But the one thing that I do remember is that I got the hell up out of Michigan and I moved to Florida. And it just so happened to be during the winter. Perfect time. New Year's Eve, it was like 80 degrees. Christmas, it was absolutely awesome. I packed up my family and I took a car down to Florida and we just went and chilled and we had a good time. We was on the beaches and it was the best experience that I've ever had during winter. It unlocked me because Florida largely really never closed. Florida never really closed. Florida was open for business. It was thriving. It was people down there partying. You know who I seen down in Florida the most? The people that voted for Biden. The people that voted for Biden, they was down in Atlanta, they was down in Texas, and they was down in Florida. The majority of the migration that's happening in this country is coming from these liberal left-leaning cities, and they moving from New York and they moving from California and they all going down to Texas and Florida while they crying and whining and talking about we don't like DeSantis. Well, if you don't like him, then why are you moving into the state that you don't like that he's governing? That's wild to me. If you don't like them, then why are you guys moving into the states that this man is governing? It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Why are y'all so hell-bent on visiting, partying, and moving to Florida if you actually don't like what it is that he put together? You don't like Disney. You don't like the stance that Disney has when it comes to the alphabet community, but you don't like the person that's taking him on. Literally the most prominent governor, the one that is opposing the entire system by which you guys are advocating against. And it doesn't mean that Trump isn't doing it also. He can also. But I would never, ever hate a governor, especially if you stand against a lot of the things. This is the thing that we see happen in the black community all the time. They say that they don't like something. They say that they stand for something. They don't really even understand that they actually more conservative in the way that they live their life and actions and church and all of this other type of stuff. But then they vote on the thing that's not in their best interest. You know why? Because people are emotional. So I'm curious as to how this turns out. I want to see all of the different ideas and policies and the strategy and how it is that they plan on fighting inflation and military, what their stance on Ukraine and this war, how they would deal with Russia differently, tariffs, fighting China, BRICS, the semiconductor chip shortage, the semiconductor chip war, how it is that they're planning on fighting the stealing of ideas and the theft as far as over there in China. Especially as it relates to ASML and all of that other. I have questions. I have things that I'm trying to mine out before I decide definitively who it is that I want to vote for. And don't be fooled. Your vote does count. Your vote does count. And you need to participate in an election process, educate yourself, become more informed as a voter so that you can then become successful and then participate in the local election also.